This video has over 9,000 views.
But that's not all we
Why
want.
is that?
We want to do some funky stuff to it. So I'm gonna get my brush tool.
This channel today has over 270 subscribers. A year ago, it didn't. And people ask all the time, maybe not to me specifically, but people ask all the time, like, how do you grow on YouTube? And it's not really a matter of pleasing the algorithm gods as many people may think it might be. You can game the system is a very myopic way of looking at it. I have several videos on this channel that are winners that are generating eyes that on the channel that wasn't there a year ago. The videos I did on Cavalry, those are doing pretty well. Those little odds and ends on OBS that really I didn't think anyone would watch, but people do watch, those are doing well too. Today, let's take a look at what evergreen content is and a couple of examples from the music industry that really give the idea of, like, this is how you're supposed to do good content and good thumbnails and good titles. Let's get into it. This video is sponsored by my Discord server, so if you like to hang out with the larger community at hand, the Spurgian Empire, link to that will be below. We have some fun people. We've been trying to plan more of a Discord game night with members of the server. If I can find time to do that, it's been kind of challenging lately. But if you like the prospect of a Discord game night and you like to play with some other people, the link for that will be down below. And also, if you like any more updates on the channel, anything at all, I also have a Twitter page. The link to that will be also down below. So, let us begin with the usual basics. What is evergreen content? Well, the video we're going to be looking at today is Creator 101, how to make a logo and overlay. That's the video that has amassed more views on the channel than I would ever hope for a single video this early in my career. But before we can discuss that, we must discuss what evergreen content is. And in short, evergreen content is content that continually produces results over time. This is the kind of content that's highly searchable both in the title and in the thumbnail. Stuff that may be appealing to a wide range of people throughout multiple or the entire parts of the year. Without evergreen content, your channel really can't be sustainable as well as some people might think. And that's a very important distinction you need to understand here, is that without this kind of content, your career could be very short. I'm not going to go into too many details about that because it is an entirely different kind of worms that I may discuss at a different point. Now, Lemon, a YouTuber you're probably familiar with if you watched his YouTube Geographic series, made a pretty good point in his Leafy video about how, or comparing rather, a good YouTube thumbnail to a music poster or a movie poster or music album. And he's pretty much right on that. A good movie poster or a good music album can be the best way to sell either of those to an audience. And ideally, you want to do two things. You want your video to pose a question or a number of questions that can only be entered by the video, ideally, or it can generate enough excitement or interest in the viewer that they would want to click on it and hopefully watch all the way through. You're probably not going to get them to watch all the way through, but if you can get that initial click, that initial interest, that initial dopamine hit that gets them to watch at least a little bit of that video, it'll be golden. But you want to do a number of other things too, which we'll discuss a little bit later. As mentioned above, the thumbnail and title of a video can be very critical to the initial success of the video. So to illustrate this, we're going to look at a couple music albums from a couple artists that I personally listen to. One, we'll be looking at Big Sounds of the Drags by Junkie XL, and an artist you probably never heard of, but I absolutely love, is Hybrids and their album Light of the Fearless. Now, we're going to mention a couple of songs from both albums. And if you want to get a better idea of what we're talking about here, it would be great to listen to it because I understand that this may be a little bit more fringe artist that you probably never really listened to but may have heard of. So as I mentioned the songs, go listen to them, come back to the video, and then we'll discuss even further. So we'll start with Big Sound of the Drags. Now, Junkie XL's Big Sound of the Drags is his second studio album released in 2000. And the two songs we're going to be mentioning here today is Check Your Basic Groove and Action Radius. Now, if you're familiar with the Need for Speed series of video games, you're going to be familiar with Action Radius because that song appeared in the first Underground game. The album art, however, is a very interesting thing to look at. The album art depicts this drag car at the line and it's surrounded by fire with a parallax effect moving in towards the car. Now, we can infer a couple of things by this. One, it probably implies that this car is about to rocket off into the sunset and hopefully win the race. which is very evident by the two songs that we were looking at today, is Big Sounds of Action Radius and Check Your Basic Groove. Check Your Basic Groove, to start off with, starts with some nature ambience, but then transitions very lovely into F1 cars whizzing past you. That's all you really need to know about this song, because that's kind of the whole point of the music, is this whole race theme kind of thing. Now, Action Radius is a little bit different. The lyrics of the song does not really emphasize the racing aspect throughout, but there's one line during the chorus that really is of particular interest, and it reads, "Beyond limits is my action radius," implying that the driver pushes his vehicle's limits beyond what they're supposed to be. Now, you gotta remember, this was 2000. This was before Apple Music or Spotify or SoundCloud or YouTube Music or any of that stuff. Where you went to buy music, you bought it in a store. Not like a storefront on the internet, like in a store. Imagine that. So you got to make sure that your album art is very enticing and very or is able to stand out amongst the mountains of other CDs in the store, or LPs, or whatever. So the fact that the Big Sound of the Drags was one of Junkie XL's most successful albums ever, and that it really propelled him into like the limelight, even though it was his only second studio album, really does give credence to how good the album art was for it. Now, the second album we'll be looking at is Hybrid's Light of the Fearless, and instead of looking at 2 songs from the album, we'll be looking at one, I Won't Back Down. Now, this is a song that you really need to listen to understand what I'm talking about here, because the thing about Hybrid is that their music kind of is this blend between electronic dance and cinematic orchestra. They do it extremely well. So to get an idea of exactly what we're talking about here, it's a good idea for you to listen to it. Now, go click away from this video, listen to the song I Won't Back Down by Hybrid. Come back to the video, then we'll discuss. You good? All right, so I Won't Back Down. The song talks about this hero who is fearless in the face of deadly odds. Will he survive the battle ahead? Who knows? All we know is that he won't back down. And the album art does reflect this particular song particularly well. It shows the lead singer Charlotte Truman and her colleague Mark Truman in this dark, dusty room with a sliver of light coming through the window, accentuating the feeling of hope in the darkness. Nails this aspect perfectly. Like, when I saw this first album art for the first time, I was floored, because I'm the kind of guy who's very into graphic design and metaphorical design and stuff like that. I like to impose questions and feelings in my art rather than, giving away all the information all at once. Now, I'm not saying you need to be going out and then creating complete works of art in your thumbnails. You need to make sure that your thumbnails will A, pose a question that can only be answered by watching the video, instill enough excitement or motivation into the person who's seeing your thumbnail to click on it and then watch the video, ideally all the way through. Now, metric on YouTube Analytics can really help with this kind of idea. Now, I'm only gonna briefly mention this because it's something that is again another entirely different can of worms. But I want you to understand is that YouTube Analytics tells you how many impressions your thumbnails are getting, and this can give you a pretty good idea of exactly, or not really exactly, but it gives you a pretty good idea of, okay, so this thumbnail is being clicked more often than others. This is what's working. This is what isn't. Now that we've discussed music album art that works extremely well, mind you, let's discuss how this applies to videos. Now, really all you really need to do is take a look at your current thumbnails, take a look at your current titles, and then identify what is working and what isn't. Keep the stuff that is working, remove the stuff and fix or do whatever it takes to remedy the stuff that isn't. Now, I'm not saying you need to be going out there and creating complete works of art for all your thumbnails, because that would take way too much time and way too much effort and time you probably don't have. But you need to be able to identify some stuff that, it's kind of a push and pull situation, I probably should say. It's push and pull. You push stuff that works, you pull stuff that doesn't. And that's kind of the mentality you need to be using when it comes to making your thumbnails for your videos. Now, the last part we're going to be talking about here. How does this all come together? Well, going back to the video that we're talking about here today, Creative 101, how to make a logo and overlay. Well, there are a couple of things that made it so successful. One, I think the thumbnail really did nail with this one. In the thumbnail, I included the Krita logo, a piece of text that says Krita Basics, so we can tell, so this is the video about Krita. It's going to be pretty basic. It's not going to be the super advanced stuff, which it isn't. And I include two pieces of art or pieces of assets that I made in the video in the thumbnail to the sides. One is that webcam overlay. The other is the logo. I blurred them out so I only revealed just enough to make people like, huh, I might want to watch that video. It might tell me. Just can't go another video without this thing going off, can I? Good Lord. It reveals just enough that people will want to watch the video. And lots of people do. At the time of recording this, it has over 10,000 views, but only have 277 subscribers. It gives you some pause for concern right there for a number of reasons. Another reason is that I do a pretty good job of keeping things pretty simple. I keep up the pace by not taking too much time to explain things, but also explain other things in pretty good detail. I do give some basics because I think I make it a point in my videos to explain basics. I don't tell you how to make the biggest and brightest thing out there. I explain to you the basics and then I get into the content. And here's the thing. We're gonna get this. This is the key to all of this. The holy grail of everything we're gonna do here. You need to have a good thumbnail. You need to have a good title. You need to understand the basics and intricacies of how thumbnails are catching to the people. You need to understand the data that tells you what's working and what isn't. You need to know all of this. But what makes evergreen content so enticing and what makes evergreen content so important to the success of a YouTube channel? Well, here's the thing. There are videos that I do want to go back to. There are videos that I like enough that, you know, either for whatever reason or for another, they instill inspiration for me, they motivate me to do things, they give me ideas for stuff I want to do and or stuff I want to build. There's all of that stuff. I don't want to look it up all the time, so I keep it in private playlists on my channel, so I can just go to the playlist and then look it up. It's right there for me, unless it's a marked for kids video, in which case I can't save it anyway. Thanks for YouTube on that one. Anyway, I save in playlists. But what's important here is that it's content that I want to go back to. It poses a question, it answers the question, but the content itself is so enticing to me that, okay, so I like this video enough that I want to watch it again. So for example, a setup video, setup tour. Setup tours are some of the most requested videos for any channel on YouTube because people like gear. People like stuff. People like to hear about other people's stuff and how they use it. That is a fantastic example of evergreen content because, for one thing, you can do setup tours basically once every year as things change and evolve in your setup. But it's also something that people want to go back to find inspiration or to just want to watch again because they like gear. That's a pretty good example of evergreen content. But other evergreen content could be something like, well, I don't know, a recipe. But this is the kind of recipe that you don't do in Christmas, don't do in Halloween, you don't do on frickin' National Pancake Day. It's something that you could do year round. Say like Wellington roast, or Philly cheesesteaks, or enchiladas. Like, this is stuff that you can do year round. You know, if you have a recipe or some spin on a recipe that you could think, oh, hey, this is a recipe that I like. You know, I'm going to share with the world. That's something that is searchable year round. The whole point here is to make sure your content is searchable year round and is highly clickable. Making sure people are willing to put it in a playlist so they don't have to search it up again is another key point. How you do it is totally up to you. There are 1,000 different ways I can explain here today about how to go about making evergreen content. And really, I don't want to hold your hand on that. Like, I do want to hold your hand enough that say like, oh, you know, this is as far as I'm going to take you. Go out there, research your own content, identify what's working, what isn't. Apply that to your stuff. Simple as that. Now that was a long-winded video. How am I going on the recording? 11 minutes left. Well, that's not too bad. You know, like, I know that was kind of an information-filled video, and I will try my best to cut it down as best as I can. But this is the type of video that I I've had in the works for a while. Been trying to collect my thoughts over and over again, try to figure out what can I include in this video to help you exactly how well as I can to make pretty good content. So if you like this video, consider giving a like, and if you didn't, well, whatever you do helps me, so thank you. And if you'd like to see more from the channel, considering subscribing. But I can't emphasize that enough. And if you'd like to discuss on a more broader level about what I explained in this video, then we also have a Discord server, the Evergreen Empire. Link to that will be down below. If you'd like to get any more updates on the channel or whatever is on my mind, I have a Twitter page. Link to that will also be down below. Thank you for joining me in this video, everyone. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'll see you later. Phone didn't go off again. I gotta learn to mute that thing before I get into a video. Phones.